morning to you. Thank you so much for starting with us on 32 FM 94.9 Ibadan. It's a Thursday morning. Today is the 3rd of February 2022. Welcome to Breakdown Newspaper Review, a program where we bring you talking points in the papers and we bring an analyst to talk about them and enlighten us more and give us his own opinion. My name is DELE ADEYANJU. We're ready to do the show today. I am not alone this morning.
My name is Kenny DUROTILU.
All right, I have the Guardian newspaper, the Nigerian Tribune, and the Premium Times newspaper this morning.
I also have the Punch newspaper, The Nation, and the Daily Post.
From the Guardian newspaper, let's take some headlines here. El-Rufai seeks help as bandits kill 1,192, kidnap 3,348 in Kaduna. Also, ignore governor's pressure, sign electoral act now. PDP lawmakers urge Buhari. Suspension of PIA will deepen uncertainties in downstream sector. Federal government earns 1 trillion naira from privatization amid calls for transparency. Gunmen kill ex-administrator, abduct over 50 persons in Kaduna, Katsina. Also, insecurity, 10,366 killed in 2021. Buhari pledges change in Northeast. Oshibajo launches Nigeria Integrated Energy Planning Tool today. Nigeria was foreign investors to ICT sector for digital economy boost. Just a few more. Makinde Abiodun vow to end banditry on Ogun Oyo borders. Zulum counters El-Rufai, says 90% Boko Haram members genuinely repented. And NSAS protest. Duke Umoke, Ndoma Egba, others lost over 45 billion naira property in Cross River.
Out of front page of the Punch newspaper this morning, 2023 presidency. I don't believe in regional consensus. That's from Sule Lamido. AFCON third place match brought forward to Saturday. Off ritualist, Yahoo teenagers and a sick country. I believe that's a piece, an editorial piece out of the Punch newspaper this morning. Boko Haram forces children to attack families to demonstrate loyalty. Orosonye retirement when Maina embezzled 2.7 billion naira pension fund. EFCC. Lai Aregbeshala Yari Kiano lose out. APC inaugurates state chairman. That's the major story I can spot out of the Punch newspaper this morning. We're taking a look at some others. Out of the Nation newspaper this morning, take battle to bandits. Others, Senate tells service chiefs. Also, I have this one out of the Punch newspaper. Tool to achieve SDG 7 for launch today. Hanifa, chief magistrate, transfers case to High Court. 90% of repentant Boko Haram members have truly changed. Buhari, peace development returning to Northeast. Some of the stories out of the Nation.
All right, from the front page of the Nigerian Tribune, Customs sees 17 truckloads of foreign rice in Ogun. 10,444 vehicles fail Lagos State computerized inspection test. Afenifere frowns on rising insecurity, insists on state local police, attacks National Assembly for opposing idea, calls for reduction of items on executive and legislative list. Tension in APC. Boni CECPC inaugurates state excos today. Committee in dilemma over convention date. We're yet to receive notice. INEC. Other stories from the front page of the Nigerian Tribune. Lagos pulls down Igboshere, Nigeria's oldest high court, as rebuilding begins. Federal government secures $600 million to address land degradation in 19 northern states. Ekiti 2022. We will teach APC lesson it won't forget aggrieved aspirants. Oshun Gobapol. PDP assigns Oyedoku Oyinlola to reconcile aspirants. Finally, from the front page of the Nigerian Tribune, Oyo Ogun to set up joint border security task force. Makinde Abiodun hold meeting joint security meeting to deploy CCTV on interstate highways. Those are headlines from the front page of the Nigerian Tribune.
Still sticking with the Nation newspaper, plot to shift APC convention thickens. FEC okays $328.87 million for railway consultancy services. What's that about? We might just take a look at that as we go ahead. Wike restated Southern governor's position on zoning. That's according to Jibrin. 3 kidnapped suspects shot dead in Edo. Nobody can zone PDP presidential ticket, says Lamido. Moving over to the Daily Post newspaper this morning. Major story: presidency. All zones will be given equal opportunity. That's according to the PDP deputy publicity scribe. Anambra APC crisis. Party resolves to drag Uba AGDK to court. Sticking with politics, AKT, no plan to dump APC. We will teach them lessons, agreed aspirants. Bamidele Bamishile. For more details, you can grab a copy of the Daily Post newspaper this morning.
From the Premium Times newspaper, federal government pays petrol bridging claims of 22.7 billion naira to transporters. Official. More headlines from here. Nigerian police officers extort over 1 million naira from student at gunpoint. Students block Lagos-Abeokuta expressway over abduction of colleagues. Guinea-Bissau President Mbalo speaks, says coup failed. Perpetrators arrested. Killings, reps indict customs. Order payment of 360 million naira compensation to victims. And the Buhari to participate in the AU meeting in Addis Ababa. FEC approves 115.4 billion naira for dualizing Kano Kazare Kongwalam Road. Those are some headlines we have. And this one, CNN president resigns over affair with colleague. All right, we have Dr. Olu Ojadokun with us on phone. Dr. Ojadokun, good morning.
Top of the day to you.
We're happy to have you with us. My name is DELE ADEYANJU. Kenny DUROTILU is right there.
All right, sir. Let's take a look at the story coming out of the Punch newspaper. Boko Haram forces, we understand, have been using children to attack their own families to demonstrate loyalty. Basically, they're sending these kids to their own families to attack their own families just to demonstrate loyalty. That's what the Punch newspaper is reporting this morning. What are your thoughts on that?
No, it only shows you that there are no depths to which the Boko Haram cannot go to. There's no extent to which they will not reach. It's the depravity of their mind. But you also have to understand that most of these kids, anyway, are poverty stricken. Boko Haram will probably feed them, and many of them are probably drugged up to their eyeballs. And so there are a number of things going on. But also, what it does, it dehumanizes the children, and of course, what it also gets is it buys the subservience and the cooperation of their parents should they survive it. It's quite horrific and it's mind-boggling. And in this instance, how does the military deal with such situations? So it's a minds and games war, a minds and hearts war rather, that is going on here. And the Boko Haram is using everything in their armory to see that they achieve total domination of the areas which they want to seek to control.
All right, Doctor, we move to other stories now. From the Premium Times, we have this: overregulation killing Nigerian businesses. That's a statement credited to Vice President Yemi Osinbajo. He said people cannot export as a result of too many regulations, Osinbajo said. Now, Doctor, let's look at it in two ways. The Vice President has been there for close to 8 years now, and we expect that maybe as the Vice President, he joined the forces to make some changes. I don't know, maybe he's just waiting for his time. Maybe when it is time eventually, if it comes, he's going to make some changes. That's on the first part. On the second part, Professor Ojadokun, has it been known on record that this government has given businesses tax holidays in the history of this country?
Well, there are two aspects to that, which you've rightfully pointed out. You know, when the Professor Osinbajo was acting president, he brought out a decree, well, they don't call it decree, executive order, ease of doing business. He went to the airport and he was astonished as to, some of the time-wasting tactics and money delay tactics that were introduced. And he introduced that directive, ease of doing business. And I must say that for a while, it made a difference. But he's no longer the acting president, he's the vice president. He takes his cue from the president. And even if he wanted to do things, he has to get the cooperation of the president. So I think vice president is a spare tire and depends on the ability of the president to give him the cue to drive things forward. As to tax breaks, I know that a number of churches and a number of businesses got some tax breaks, but whether it's generalized or whether it's strategic enough, I'm not sure. The reality, anyway, is that most businesses in Nigeria don't pay that much tax. That's the reality, commensurate to their responsibility and the burden sharing, because tax is such that everybody should share the burden, not just you and I, but in fact businesses. But on a larger front, we need to be very strategic the way we use tax. We are an under-taxed nation. Those that should be paying the tax, the rich, is very mighty, are not necessarily paying it, and the companies should pay their fair share of tax. So ease of doing business, yes. Let's get rid of the regulations, bundle of regulations. Let's make it easier to import. Let's make it easier to make money for the country so that we can get out of the current malaise, economic malaise that we have, and let's make less borrowing.
If we become a tax economy, do you think it's going to change anything if we become taxed properly?
Well, you see, the skepticism, the cynicism of Nigerian people is that anyway, when you pay tax, when money that comes to the government, nobody knows how it's spent, and most of it is embezzled. But I'll tell you, there's something called tax and representation. It's a principle. You see, if you have like ADEYANJU and that sort of thing, you're going to be watching people like a hawk, because that's a form of, not really taxation, but everybody's contributing together so that everybody in the end gets the benefit. So if you see tax as a kind of ADEYANJU sort of thing, where everybody contributes so that our society is made better, then people will begin to take more responsibility. There'll be more accountability, as opposed to petrodollars. Petrodollar comes from the ground, so people think, oh well, it's not particularly our money; it comes from the ground. Whereas when the money comes from your hard-earned earnings and it's being spent anyhow by local government or by government or indeed federal government, I think people will learn to hold the government to account. So I think the more tax we become, the more people will watch the government, and the more accountability we will get, and more transparency, hopefully.
All right, Prof. Holding government to account is one thing.
Yeah.
Knowing the people to hold accountable is another thing. Now, there's this report which we tweeted, I think, last week, and it's in the news again today. It's about the let me see. Yes, it's about state policing, regional policing, local government policing. Now, Afenifere is frowning on the rising insecurity in the states. It's been like that for a while. And now Afenifere is attacking the National Assembly for opposing the idea of having state policing or local government policing. They are calling for reduction of items on executive and legislative list. But now we ask again, are we having true representation in the National Assembly? If we are holding anybody responsible, are we holding the president responsible, or our own representative in the National Assembly and the state assemblies?
Let's be very clear that when we talk about the government of Nigeria, it's three arms. We have the executive, of course, we have the legislature, and of course, we have the judiciary. And of course, while the executive gives the lead in terms of execution, we expect our National Assembly to make the laws. But unfortunately for us, the National Assembly have conflated their roles with that of the executive. The National Assembly is there to represent the constituencies and represent people like you and I. And the overwhelming majority of Nigeria want some form of devolved policing. Whether you call it state policing, which I oppose, or whether you call it regional policing, which is a variant of that, you understand, that's what the vast majority of Nigerians want. Unfortunately, we have in the Senate, and to some extent in the House of Representatives, a legislature that takes their cue from the presidency, and that shouldn't be the case. True representation and true connection with the people means that you at least reflect what the people want. I dare say that it's a reflection of the people we put in place. And some have suggested that the only way to address this is using the PVC and using it creatively, not to support political parties, a particular political party, but support individuals that are pro-regionalization, concurrent list, moving more items to the concurrent list from the executive list, and pro-restructuring, and so that people have to be more discerning. And that will come from education, and that will come from people desiring more than the naira that is given them on election day, and saying, no, if I take some naira now, I'm going to suffer for the next 4 years, as some people have suggested we have for the past 7 or 6 years. People have suggested, I'm not saying that's the case, but that's a suggestion. So yes, there is a breakdown of governance in terms of representation, and there's a disconnect between the Senate, House of Reps, and the people that they are supposed to make laws for.
All right, we have some political matters coming out of the Punch newspaper this morning, but first we'll take some messages, and when we come back, we'll be taking Doctor up on those matters. Do stay with us.
Mọ ohun tó ń ṣẹlẹ̀ ní àyíká rẹ nípasẹ̀ ìròyìn BBC ní Yorùbá. Nítorí kí o tó lè tayọ, o ní láti mọ̀ ọ́n. Ní ìmísí pẹ̀lú àwọn oríṣiríṣi ìròyìn láti ibi àti káàkiri àgbáyé. Nígbà tí o bá ní ìmọ̀ nípa ohun tó ń lọ ní àgbáyé, o lè ṣe ohunkóhun. Mọ ohun tó ń ṣẹlẹ̀ ní àyíká rẹ. Wá BBC News Yorùbá kàn.
Every kid is amazing at something. Give them amazing day. Amazing day instant cereal. Give them amazing day. Same calcium as a glass of milk. For healthy bones and teeth. Excellent source of protein. For daily growth and strength. Calcium, protein, vitamin A, dietary fiber.
Golden Penny Amazing Day Instant Cereal. Feed their amazing.
Uncle Dentist, wetin be cavities and how Colgate take dey protect my teeth from cavities? Shey dey use comfort?
No dear, na hole for teeth dey cause most tooth pain wey be cavity. But if you use Colgate Maximum Cavity Protection take brush every day, the confirmed formula go help keep natural calcium inside our teeth wey go protect them from tooth decay.
Time don reach to upgrade to the world's most chosen toothpaste, Colgate. Because Colgate locks calcium in.
Keeps cavities out!
Now, the Nigerian Dental Association, they recommend Colgate.
Ǹjẹ́ ẹ ti gbọ́ wípé àgbáríjọpọ̀ gbogbo ọ̀dọ́ onítẹ̀síwájú níwọ̀ oòrùn Progressive Southwest Youth ti tẹ́ pẹpẹ ìpàtẹ ọjà amílẹ̀ tìtì sílùú Ìbàdàn láti sàmì àjọ̀dún ọ̀dọ́ onítẹ̀síwájú tọdún yìí ni wọ́n ṣe sílẹ̀kùn àǹfààní lẹ̀ fún gbogbo ọ̀dọ́ tó dáńtọ́ nínú kátàkárà láti wá pàtẹ oríṣiríṣi ọjà bíi oúnjẹ, bàtà, aṣọ, ẹ̀ṣọ́ ara, electronics àti bẹ́ẹ̀ bẹ́ẹ̀ lọ. Ìpàtẹ ọjà amílẹ̀ tìtì tó tún jẹ́ ìrónilágbára fáwọn ọ̀dọ́ yìí làkọ́kọ́ rú ẹ̀ níbi tí àyè ó ti gba ọgbẹgbẹ̀rún 30,000 láti kópa lẹ́ẹ̀kan náà. Ọjọ́ karùn-ún oṣù kejì 5 of February ni ó máa wáyé o. Ní pápá ìṣeré Liberty Stadium Ìbàdàn láago 10 àárọ̀ ọ̀fẹ́ lẹ́tọ̀ yìí o. Kìkìdá akẹ́fọ́kọ́lẹ̀ ní tẹ̀kọ̀ àgbáyé www.progressiveyouthhub.ng tàbí kẹ́pẹ́ 07051940388 Southwest Progressive Youth Festival 2022 ọ̀nà ìrónilágbára ìrọ̀rùn fún gbogbo àwa ọ̀dọ́.
Every kid is amazing at something. Give them amazing day. Amazing day instant cereal. Give them amazing day. Same calcium as a glass of milk. For healthy bones and teeth. Excellent source of protein. For daily growth and strength. Calcium, protein, vitamin A, dietary fiber.
Golden Penny Amazing Day Instant Cereal. Feed their amazing.
All right, still the Break of Dawn paper review, 32 FM 94.9. It's a beautiful day right here, and we are taking a look at the major headlines coming out of the papers this morning. We have with us Professor Olu Ojedokun right here. Prof, I'd like to have your thoughts on this particular story out of the Punch newspaper. Lai Aregbeshola Yari Kiamo, we understand they've lost out. The APC inaugurating state chairman, they've lost out of that chairmanship bid. Now, the factions of the All Progressives Congress, as reported by the Punch newspaper in several states, that are loyal to some ministers and senators are set to lose out as the APC has perfected plans to inaugurate state chairman loyal to governors at the party's national secretariat in Abuja. That's today. Now, some of the losers include Minister of Interior, Rauf Aregbeshola, the Minister of State for Labor and Employment, Festus Kiamo, and the Minister of Information and Culture, Alhaji Lai Mohammed. Others who lost out include Governor Ibikunle Amosun of Ogun State, Senator Kabiru Marafa, and the former governor of Zamfara State. Some of the states witnessing crisis, this particular crisis, include Osun, Ogun, Kwara, Kebbi, Kano, Delta, Akwa Ibom, Rivers, Bauchi, and Zamfara. What's your take on this one? Is it some, politicking going on there? Okay, you are not in good terms with the governor. Now you're left out. What do you think?
Well, first and foremost, I mean, the party machinery, most of the time, is always controlled by the governor because the governor is local, the governor is in charge, the governor controls packs of office, perquisites of office, and largesse and patronage. So the governor is in a very, very advantageous position. Many of these people you've mentioned are political giants in their own right, but many of them are seen nationally on a national newspapers, which is not where the support comes from. So I don't think it's surprising that the governors have the upper hand. But also, there's always a fight for influence. What trumps each other? Is it the national influence or is it the local influence? Because you're visible as a minister doesn't mean that in your state that visibility is translated into the local. But the problem with APC is that the crisis is not just limited to one or two states, it's across. And that's what you get when ideology is no longer what's prominent. What's prominent is the acquisition of power, the search for wealth, and influence rather than serving the people and rather than ideology. And I think for APC and indeed for PDP also, so let it not be that I'm being partisan, both of them have no ideology, and their main ideology basically is to get into power. And so the individuals just want power, and principle is abandoned most of the time. And I think that's part of what is being reflected in the local politics that you just mentioned. Is it going to be resolved? Well, if they get power, maybe. In opposition has proven that when they lose power, they seem to go their separate ways and fighting resumes on an unprecedented scale.
Obviously, if I'm guessing you correctly, this is not something that's not going to serve the APC going forward into the 2023 elections.
No, ordinarily it shouldn't. But have you seen the state also of the PDP too? The PDP is not faring better. That's the problem. Where you have a strong viral opposition, of course, APC will be in serious trouble. But the tragedy of our political process is that APC seems to still have a fighting chance, irrespective of what people are saying about their performance or their disunity, because precisely the PDP too has their fair share of trouble.
I'll also like to take your thoughts on this particular one. Still talking politics now. The Deputy National Publicity Secretary of the People's Democratic Party, Ibrahim Abdullahi, has said that the 6 geopolitical zones of the country were given equal opportunity to seek the party's ticket for the 2023 presidential election. I could say, that's, giving balance to the conversation we're having this morning.
Well, that's a cop-out, isn't it? It's a cop-out. They didn't say that when it was 7 or 6 years ago, or whatever it was, and when the North was allowed and given a free run for the presidency and it was zoned to them. And a lot of people in the country are not going to be happy with that because they will say when it comes to other regions, then you allow everybody, it's free for all. So what has happened to be turn by turn situation, especially when we are more fragile, and I've said it many times before, that the fragility of the Nigerian state means that the zoning, to a certain extent, has helped us cement that. We are not asking for zoning so that incompetence be enthroned. We're asking for zoning so that there may be equity and there may be fairness. And there's one part of the country that has never really governed, at least in terms of the civilian democratic sort of rule, and that's the Southeast. And my own view is that if we are going to get fairness in this country, the Southeast, not even the Southwest, deserves a shot, at the presidency. And so all commerce and so on and so forth, I don't really buy it, from that point of view. Having said that, we want a competent president, and we want a president that knows what is going on, and a president that nobody is ruling on his behalf.
You feel that the Southeast has been maligned for too long?
Well, I'm not sure about the expression maligned, but what I just feel is that they've been sidelined. And I think they've been sidelined for a number of reasons. And the reason why they're sidelined is you have to remember historically that there was a vicious civil war that was fought. That was the beginning of their sidelining, but also the fact that I'm not sure they've got their political act together in the past. They need to be more united. They need to identify a strong candidate, and they need to network with other parts of the country. So if they do those things, people like Peter Obi, people like the professor who used to be Deputy Governor of Central Bank, I'm trying to remember his name, if those people come together and find the most viable candidate, Rocha, Okorocha, and all those people, then they might stand a fighting chance. But I think the Southwest should have their shot. Is it going to happen? I'm not sure.
Prof, let's look at the Southeast again. are they prioritizing their need properly? What do I mean? We have a lot of people from there clamoring for Biafra. If they get that shot, are they going to just let Biafra slide?
Well, I think if they get their shot, they will pull the wind. The wind will be pulled out of the sail of the Biafra, or the so-called Biafrans. I think if they get the presidency, I think the call for separation, the separatist movement will be diminished, and part of the marginalization and part of their sidelining that they've always shouted about will be reduced significantly. So I think it will be a masterstroke if they got it. I think it will further cement the nation. The insurgency of the uprising from that part of the world will be diminished, and it will give the Southeast an opportunity to demonstrate what they've always said they can do, which is they can govern well, they can bring innovation, and they can transform this country into an El Dorado.
All right, quickly, let's look at another story here. Oyo going to set up joint border security task force. Makinde Abiodun hold meeting joint security meeting to deploy CCTV on interstate highways. That's just a story there. I'm sure you will give both governors kudos for that.
Yes, it comes out. You know that the Southwest, they have what is called DAWN. So they talk every time on a number of cooperative ventures, and that's how they came up with Amotekun. So this is an extension of the security cooperation, the regional networking, even though it's just 2 states at the moment. And it makes sense. They have a contiguous border, a border that continues. It's this borders you talk about after artificial borders, aren't they? You understand? So you're not going to look there and say, that's Oyo or Osun State or Ogun State. Sometimes you don't see any borders. So I think it's sensible. It is the right thing to do, and kudos to them. Let's have more of that cooperation going on across the country in terms of security cooperation and border cooperation partnerships.
All right, the time is coming up to 7 o'clock. It's 32 FM 94.9 Ibadan. Don't forget you're live on Facebook and YouTube. I'm sure we have comments on those platforms already. You can drop your comment and let us know which of the stories, the headlines we have talked about earlier, that you relate with, or you resonate with, and just drop your comment on those platforms. We're going to open the phone lines after the next break. And after that, then we'll take your comments. We have Professor Olu still in the studio. Now, before we take our break, quickly, Professor Ojedokun, I was just seeing a report here about Shina Pella, where he said he sponsored a bill in the House and said that the NSCDC should be scrapped and the officers there should be moved to the Nigerian police force. Do you think that bill is going to survive?
Well, you have to remember how this came about very quickly. It came about during the Obasanjo administration. There used to be volunteers mainly that people use from that point of view. You have to ask the question, are they effective on their own? Or do they have any particular role they play? They're supposed to guide pipelines and all infrastructure. Is it not the job of the police? If we have regional policing, would we need them as a separate force? My own view is that if we continue to have the federal police that we have, then maybe they have a role to serve. But if we regionalize our police or go state policing, then they might be redundant and not fit for purpose. Having said that, they are not very happy. I understand that as a result of that, they are boycotting APC individuals and politicians. Is that the right thing to do? I don't think so. I think they should lobby. I think they should make their case. But I think they should be professional in the conduct of
they've withdrawn the personnel attached to Shina Pella. That's the NSCDC.
Well, okay, yes, okay. Let's be very accurate to Shina Pella. I think that's wrong.
I think they've actually now restored them, back to him. Going by latest reports.
That's good, and that's the way that it should be. This at the end of the day, Shina Pella is exercising his right as a member of the House of Representatives to make law. And you can't gag him. You can't gag him because constitutionally is empowered to make law with others.
All right, we'll quickly take a break. When we come back, we open the phone lines. Professor Ojedokun, stay with us on the line.
It's going to be a golden year. This is what we declare. Every day you go wake up to golden morning if you breathe. Say yeah. It's going to be a golden day. That's we don't declare. We go wake up every day to golden morning if you breathe. Say yeah.
Have a golden morn, a golden day, a golden week, a golden month, and a golden year. Golden Morn, delicious nourishment for the whole family.
mọ ohun tó ń ṣẹlẹ̀ ní àyíká rẹ nípasẹ̀ ìròyìn BBC ní Yorùbá. Nítorí kí o tó lè tayọ, o ní láti mọ̀ ọ́n. Ní ìmísí pẹ̀lú àwọn oríṣiríṣi ìròyìn láti ibi àti káàkiri àgbáyé. Nígbà tí o bá ní ìmọ̀ nípa ohun tó ń lọ ní àgbáyé, o lè ṣe ohunkóhun. Mọ ohun tó ń ṣẹlẹ̀ ní àyíká rẹ. Wá BBC News Yorùbá kàn.
Ìyá Ṣadé, ṣé o sì tí mo wá ń pè látòórọ̀ tó wá dá mi lóhùn? Èmi ló dé.
Bàbá Wálé, ẹ má bínú sí mi. Bóyá gan ni mo mọ̀ pé ti súnmọ́ tòsí ọ̀dọ̀ mi.
Kí wá ló dé gan? Láhùn mi.
Ẹ wo ọ̀rọ̀ lórí àwọn èrè oko mi ni. Kódà ó ti sú mi kọjá àlàyé. Mi ti ẹ̀ ṣiṣẹ́ àgbẹ̀ yìí gan mọ́.
Kò lè tó yẹn. Ṣé o ti gbọ́ nípa Modesty Farm Nigeria ní iléeṣẹ́ ohun ọ̀gbìn ẹ̀gẹ́ àtàgbàdo? Wọ́n ń bá ní dáko oroko ṣọ̀gbìn tí yóò mú èrè ńlá fún ọ lọ́pọ̀lọpọ̀. Kò tán síbẹ̀ o, ilẹ̀ oko ẹ̀gẹ́ àtàgbàdo wọn làwọn darandaran kì í súnmọ́ tòsí rẹ̀ rárá o. Ó sì fi ni lọ́kàn balẹ̀ gbáà.
Ọlágbẹ̀ ni ò jẹ̀bi ó pa ni ẹgbẹ́ iṣu ẹgbẹ́ gbẹdọ̀.
Kàn sí iléeṣẹ́ Modesty Farm Nigeria lónìí ní Ladlab Complex, Shell Bus Stop, Ológun Ẹrú, Ìbàdàn. Tàbí kí o yára pè wọ́n báyìí lórí ẹ̀rọ ìbánisọ̀rọ̀ 0703 704 3168.
Modesty Farm Nigeria, orí yín wà ń bẹ̀ o.
I'm living the life cause I get easy. Yes.
Kọ́ńbù ẹ̀kú àlejò emú gbòǹgbò ọ̀nà ẹ̀kú àlejò ẹsẹ̀. Ìbàdàn nílé Olúyọ̀lé ẹ̀kú àmójúbà Tizeti Network Limited pẹ̀lú Tizeti ìlò omi òjò lẹ́ẹ̀ máa lo ayélujára íńtánẹ́ẹ̀tì ní yàwàlù. Torí pé gbajúgbajà ní iléeṣẹ́ Tizeti Network Limited nídìí ìpèsè ayélujára lórílẹ̀‐èdè Nàìjíríà fún iléeṣẹ́ ńláńlá àtolókòwò kéékèèké lábẹ́ àbúradà Tizeti. Ẹ lè browse kẹ́ stream kẹ́ sì tún gbá géèmù bó ṣe wù yín láì níkọ̀sẹ̀ pẹ̀lú ìlànà ẹgbẹ̀lẹ́mùkú data. Kámá wàá làágùn jìnnà àjẹpọ́nu láìfà ń lọ lọ́wọ́ fún gbogbo olùgbé Ìbàdàn 2,222 naira péré lẹ́sàn dípò 59,500 naira tó yẹ kẹ́ ẹ san fún installation kẹ́ ẹ sì gbádùn internet nínú ilé yín fódìdí oṣù kan gbáko. Kèé máa ṣeré ìwọ ni kó o má sọ̀fànù. Ẹ kàn sí wifi.com.ng/oyo ẹ sì lè pe 09087493040 tàbí kẹ́ ẹ tẹ àtẹ̀jíṣẹ́ sí internet@wifi.com.ng 22/02/2022 nìfàyí máa wá sópin o. Ayélujára ní yàwàlù Ọ̀yọ́ ló wà.
Every kid is amazing at something. Give them amazing day. Amazing day instant cereal. Give them amazing day. Same calcium as a glass of milk. For healthy bones and teeth. Excellent source of protein. For daily growth and strength. Calcium, protein, vitamin A, dietary fiber.
Golden Penny Amazing Day Instant Cereal. Feed their amazing.
All right, see the Break of Dawn paper review 32 FM 94.9. We have some messages on Facebook. Sulaiman Yakin, we see you. Sile Ola, I hope I got that right. Aziz Nofisat. Good morning to you guys. I do appreciate the messages. Kolawali Kazim says, let's talk about Lautech. They said it is now the best university now. I just want to ask, is Makinde a bad father to his children? If Lautech is now a good university, how come Makinde can't allow his children to attend it? Or you say people will beware of. Okay, that's that's according to Kolawole. Elsewhere, we have this one. Bami Dele Ayodele says, "Glorious morning, Dele. Kindly inform your team of engineers that we couldn't link up to Garden Radio and other radio stations. I'm sure.
The platforms. All right. Our engineers are working at studios to fix that in a short while. All right, 070-55,949, 080-97,949. Those are the numbers to call this morning. And you can drop your messages on Facebook or YouTube. Hello, good morning.
Hello, good morning.
Good morning, Kenny.
Good morning, sir.
And ADEYANJU. Thank you, Professor Oluwajedokun. This is the voice of John who's on Joko this morning. I'm in your support too. And let me tell you that Nigerian president of Igbo extraction definitely will not happen now. I am sure, just as you do. This is not because they do not merit it, but because there is a bankrupt theory against Igbo due to the threat of the civil war. So my own part to do this money is how to solve insecurity. State police, according to Afeni Ferry, is actually the right thing in any federal system. I told you sometimes ago in this program, I said that most societies in other clans have police security at the three levels, the federal, state, and local council. The best way to undercut sectarian violence is to devolve more power to the state and local government. Indeed, through federalism, we pave the way for every state component to make whatever choices it will deem fit for itself while developing at its own pace and using its resources to maximize its development. Regrettably, one of the cardinal programs of APC's devolution of power, you get that in Nation newspaper, Monday, August 19, 2013, page 13. That document was even signed by the then interim National Publicity Secretary, who is the Minister for Information now, Alhaji Lai Mohammed. Unfortunately, it is failed to ensure the fulfillment of devolution of power. I'm John Uzanjoko. Thank you.
All right, thank you, John Njoku. Professor Ojedokun, you heard that. He said having a southeastern president is not going to happen now.
Well, that's interesting coming from John Njoku. I wish it were not true, but it appears, yes, that the chances are not as bright as many of us want it to be. But we will see. We still have a few months to play with various conventions. There will be candidates that are from the southeast, but whether they are going to be able to mobilize enough support is going to be the question. I think it's an open question.
He alleged a gang up.
Well, is it a gang up? Well, yes. I think there are some parts of the country who feel that people from the southeast will not get to that position. And I think that's rather unfortunate because we have brilliant minds from that part of the world, part of the country, just as we have brilliant minds from other parts of the country. I think every part of the country deserves a shot, an opportunity. The southeast cannot be worse, some people would suggest, than what we currently have.
Hello, good morning.
Good morning, Kenny.
Morning.
Good morning.
Morning,
okay. You said something about an editorial and this Yahoo thing and this criminalities of killing and things. But there is an issue I was just thinking out, and I think I should think it out, my brothers. What I ask now is, have you noticed that what we do with most of these our politicians is we tell ourselves that they have paid their dues. Paying their dues, you see looting. In other words, many of the probably would say they have paid their dues, and these young ones are actually watching us. They are watching. That means, in other words, too, they can also do the same thing and pay they will also say they have paid their dues. I think many of us should be careful with utterances and what we pass across to these young ones. Because at the end of the day, it's what you and I display to them that they will bring out much later. Good morning.
Very much. Thank you, okay, for calling. All right, 070-55,000, 949-080-97,000, Which of those stories do you relate with? Which one do you want to pass a comment on? We're expecting your calls. And you can come on Facebook or YouTube to drop your comments. Yes, Professor Jadokun, the Igbos are not ready. So it seems. And if you see that they are not actually consulting widely enough as we have our South Westerners going around, especially Ashwaju Tinubu. There is no Easterner that is consulting, that is talking to people from across board that way.
Well, Professor Moghalu seems to be going around. What's his name? Mr. Obi has indicated that he's interested. Rochester Okorocha at the very, very open and very broad launch of his bid. Governor Mai went to see the president of the commander-in-chief indicating his intention. I'm not sure that they're not consulting, because it's the media that sometimes carries certain news and doesn't. They are. But the fact is that I think there's a groundswell that is concentrating more on the Southwest, concentrating more on a particular candidate who feels it is his opportunity and to govern. And then what you also have, you must not forget the dynamics that we have a sitting vice president who is competent and able. And in such situations, people always assume that the vice president should have the next shot, having done, in some people's view, not necessarily my view, having done creditably well. So there are a number of dynamics that are militating, crowding the ambitions of the Southeast.
All right. Quickly, let's look at this story here. It's about some Nigerian police officers who extorted 1 million naira from a student at gunpoint.
Yes, it's getting out of hand. I think people have seen for quite some time the students as soft touches. That never used to be the case. In the days of Adeyanju, Akintudeojo, they were slaying, of course. In those days, the students were feared, the students were respected. The students were feared and respected. But nowadays, many of the students, you understand, are not feared and respected. They feel that most students are Yahoo boys and that most youths are good for nothing. And will you be surprised? Because what comes even from the top is that our youths are not very serious. And I think that sort of percolates to the Nigerian police. But it's very unfortunate the amount of money that is extorted from the students. And the fact that they are extorting them is because these youths are very innovative and are able to make lots and lots of money. I'm not talking about the Yahoo element, even beyond the Yahoo element. A stop must be put to this. Otherwise, many of these youths will continue to flee Nigeria and to leave this country. And it's going to be worse for us because it's just going to be left like oldies, like me and above me in terms of age. And it's not going to do anything good for the economy. So the government has to step in. And the Inspector General of Police and the necessary security operatives as to one of their men, and stop this. It's getting out of control and beyond reason.
I wonder how we forget things easily in this country. NSAS was not even up to 2 years.
It's not up to 2 years, is it? It's not. It will got 2 years. Well, we got to forget things because there's no concerted follow-up from government. We forget things because at the end of the day, the government is not really for the governed. The government is for themselves. You need to see the Financial Times article that came up, very scathing on the federal bureaucracy that we have. We are not really serving the interests of the people in terms of education, in terms of health, in terms of welfare, and in terms of security, of course. And until we start doing that, we'll continue to forget the priorities of the people and look after other priorities. All right, as we wrap up this morning, Prof, there's this report here. I would like to just know your take. I'm sure you understand that balance. CNN president resigns over affair with colleague. Zuka has been at the M of affairs of the cable network for 9 years. Now, Jeff Zuka went to resign from the network after he didn't disclose a romantic relationship with another senior executive at the company. In Nigeria, it won't happen that way. So why must he resign? It's a normal thing, consensual. What do you think? Well, I don't think I don't think they're being Puritan, and I don't think they're against shenanigans going on. I think what they're against is to be transparent and to be above board. If you're in a position where you'll be taking decisions that affect the whole, then of course you should be transparent with your relationship so that if you become something in the radio station or in the television station, as the case might be, you understand, at least people know where it's coming from. And I think it's a lack of transparency. What you ought to have done is just let people know that he's involved in indulging and partaking in a number of shenanigans. If he had done that, I think it would be okay.
That's supposed to be a private affair, isn't it?
Yes, private. Well, it's a private affair if it keeps it out of the television station. If it does it outside in other places in Atlanta, but not in the television station. Or your employees, the people that you work with, the people that you give orders to and instructions and that you manage. At least in the United States, at least you need to declare it. In the United States, their culture is quite different. It's a culture of transparency, and it's a culture where deference is lacking in many respects.
Thank you, Prof, for being part of the program today. We have to see you some other time. Thank you so much. Good morning. Yes. Well, we'll take our leave of you, listener. My name is DELE ADEYANJU. Join us same time tomorrow morning. That's up at 6 for Break It Down Newspaper Review.
My name is Kenny DUROTILU. You have yourself an amazing day.
Here is the